So I'm just going to get started. Somebody asked what's the difference between a one page and a one sheet, and what they're looking for might be something closer to a one sheet. It might be. A one sheet, here's the difference. A one sheet is usually like a poster, a movie poster with a tagline and an image, and it's more like for the marketing of the film, usually after the film is made. What we're talking about today is going to help you write your one page for this competition, but the lecture I'm going to give is not how to write the best one page for this competition. I'm giving a lecture on how to write one pages in general. A one page is really, you're pitching the story on one page. That's the goal. Let me just go through this. Don't want to get ahead of myself. If you're a director, you pitch a vision, and if you're a producer, you pitch like a plan for production. But this is more about pitching the story, pitching the narrative. These are some of the classes that I teach, and I would say like a third of you have already had these classes. You already know all this stuff. Short pitch should take about 1 or 2 minutes, and a one page is 1 or 2 pages. We still call it a one page, even though it's a page and a half or 2 pages. Yeah. A long pitch will take 10 to 20 minutes. A log line and a synopsis are part of the one page. So on the one page, I'll show you several one pages, but on the one page, you're going to start with the title, the medium, the genre, the length, the log line, and then the synopsis, and also a picture. So, answering this question here, can you see that in the back?
Yes.
What elements should you include in a one page? And this is what you're going to want to include here. Sorry for the repetition. You don't have to write title and write the title. And you don't have to write, like, you just put the title. And usually in the film industry, titles are capitalized and bolded. You don't have to write title and then write your title. Just write the title without the word title colon. And then you say who it's written by, and then the length and what the genre is, and then I put my company. So the reason why you structure a one page this way is so that people can know immediately whether they like your project or not. They see the title, hopefully it's an intriguing title. They see the genre, sci-fi, and immediately they can say, I don't want sci-fi, I don't want comedy. They hand it right back to you, because this is a pretty, though the only hard and fast rule, I think, in screenwriting is that nobody wants to read anything. Nobody will read your script, nobody will read your one page, nobody will read your treatment. They will, but they won't. So you want to give them exactly the information that they need when they need it. So title, who's it by, who's it coming from, what's the genre. 90-minute film? No, we don't do films, and they hand it back to you. And if they like all this information, then they keep going. And you want to have like some nice white space, like even this is too much. I would almost say this is too much. And then describe the characters, that's it. It's done, there's your one page. This one page is 2 pages. Let me show you another example of one page. Again, title, writers, genre, logline, young search and rescue ranger on a routine patrol in the Chinese Badlands finds his life in danger when he stumbles upon a dead body and a man claiming it was an accident. So hopefully you read the logline and you go, interesting. And then lately, and especially in China, picture, because nobody wants to read your one page, so picture is good. It's got to be a cinematic picture. You need to use a picture that looks like a movie. Hopefully, because you're trying to impress them that you're about to make a movie and you want to give them some kind of a vision. I'm going to teach you in a moment how to write the synopsis, but for now I'm just going to briefly show you what the one pages look like. There it is. You don't want to pitch the end of the story. You want them to maybe pitch the setup and maybe show you what's right. Characters. Yeah, so this one page is a page and a half. This picture, maybe not the best picture. It's not really cinematic, but hopefully it gives you a sense of what the movie might be. A brilliant hacker must save his girlfriend, blah, 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 with dollars. So this is all you're really doing. Basic information at the top, logline, synopsis, and characters. The reason why characters comes after the synopsis is because if people like your idea and they like your logline and they like your picture and they like your characters, then they want to know who they can cast. They want to know what kind of actors do we need. Is this going to be a good role for Kent, a good role for Jim, a good role for Scarlett Johansson, a good role for Jackie Chan. So, any questions about these examples here? This is what the finished product, your finished product is.
What did you say comes after the characters?
Empty white space.
I was thinking that last one's like the wall.
Oh, after the characters, sometimes I add a little bit more. If I write my one page, and I still feel like it's not quite good enough, maybe I'll add a little something extra at the end. In the one page for download, I wanted to discuss a little bit about the cybercrime. Yeah. By downloading pirated movie, you invite hackers into your computer. Just to make it more exciting. And in this one, this is more of like a drama. It's like a social drama. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the themes. And there's no reason why you can't tack on a little something if you think about what you sell your idea. Any other questions? Yeah.
So in the Stone Soup Fund site, you guys give an example?
That's not a good example of one page.
Okay, so I was like,
Yeah, do it like this. That was just thrown together real quick. It wasn't a great picture. You give people some visual idea. Yeah, that one's awesome. If I must say so myself, if anyone who wants to buy this, we know anyone who wants to. 3 wealthy Chinese troublemakers. This is what's called a tagline. A tagline isn't a log line. It's a tiny phrase that will sort of like that they can use for marketing. New East meets Old West. Come on, I got to include that. It's great.
It sounds like what those critics write about movies, like the title. Like
Yeah, or actually more like the marketing team. Yeah. Tian Chen show are rich. They grew up in Beijing. Sent to an American cowboy ranch to shovel and shoot guns and rifles.
Do they compete in the end? Shoot each other?
Rodeo.
Yeah.
They,
Rodeo.
Do the Chinese have a Mexican standoff in the United States?
they have a Mongolian standoff.
Turkey in the dirt. Turkey to build a railroad. Ouch.
Well, you need to have some sort of
Nice picture. I've used this picture for several one pages. I mean, who doesn't like an empty road in the desert? It's great. It's just great. Red flag.
Sounds like a piece of tree.
That's it. This is a perfect one page. All it is basic information, logline, picture, synopsis. And there's an art to writing this synopsis, and that's what we'll discuss for the rest of the class. And then we'll take a break, then I'll give you a piece of paper, and then you'll start writing your one page. And then you can send it to me today, tomorrow, within the week, and I'll give some tip. And I'll give everyone's money back.
that's one thing. I regret it paying money.
When's the due date on these things?
For the Stone Soup Fund, we extended the deadline to
shoots about the end of August.
See, if people want to know who the characters are, so they can know who casts, like who's going to be the best. So that synopsis that you saw on the one page, you want to include these 7 elements. Who is your main character? What is his or everyday life at the beginning? So you saw in Florida Cowboys, these 3 guys, they're rich. They just goof around. Why do we feel empathy for them? It's super important that you have all of these 7 things. What challenge or opportunity starts the story? What's the new situation? New situation is code word for now we're in Act 2. What is the goal and the motivation and what conflict is going to stop it? So in a long movie has 3 acts, beginning, middle, and end. What you're doing is you're pitching only 4 things from Act 1 and 2 things from Act 2. A movie has several scenes, several characters, several elements. You want to pitch these first 4 things that appear in Act 1 and these other 3 things that appear in Act 2. Look, like you have a question. Yeah.
Will we cover the difference between a synopsis and a pitch?
Synopsis is a written pitch, more or less. Well, you don't share your inspiration.
Okay. Is that it, pretty much?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. All right, so let's start with hero. We're going to talk about hero and why and how to pitch hero, everyday life, one by one. Let's talk about the hero. The first thing to keep in mind, and the most important thing to keep in mind, is you're pitching a story, you're pitching characters. You're not pitching camera types, you're not pitching lenses, you're not pitching themes. You're really not even pitching themes. You're pitching a story, and that means you're pitching characters. Stories are about people who want things, who run into people who don't want them to have those things, and battles that ensue what happens in the end. So this is my famous list of words. Look at these. Look at this list of words here for a second. Go ahead, Jim, and read these stupid words. No, in English.
English. Stories are about beliefs, duality, free will, globalism, ideology, morality, modernization, principles, fountain, transcendence,
Running a joke.
values. These are all very interesting words, right?
Yeah, I'm so bored just hearing these words. Kent, read the good list of words here.
Yes.
Adultery, conspiracy, divorce, espionage, heist, hero, kidnapping, murder, ransom, robbery.
So these are better words. These are much better words, and these are story words. Why? Because they involve characters. Adultery involves people. It involves a cheating spouse. So, are you going to write this on your one page? Ashwin, hi, welcome. You're right on time. Is your story about the way society perpetuates inhumane economic practice, blah, 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 blah. This is boring to read. Trust me. People don't want to read your one pages. They don't want to read your scripts. If you come out using words like this, I'm just going crazy thinking about it. I have this one writer connected to me who will always talk about the idea, and he just sends me all kinds of words about the idea, and I just think, great, but what's the story? Little Miss Sunshine. Think about every single character in the opening of Little Miss Sunshine, if you've seen it. The father's giving a lecture, quite like this one, about success principles, and he's unsuccessful. And the uncle is a philosophy teacher, and he tried to commit suicide. Yeah, this little girl wants to win a beauty pageant, but she's never going to win it. So, talk about a hope, dream, desire, or backstory in contrast with your everyday life. The idea is contrast here. Contrast is an element of any kind of art, whether you're painting or taking pictures, story, there's also contrast. All right, one more thing about everyday life that is not here. There's a missing slide. The reason why you have to show their everyday life is because we need a baseline of how to interpret the amazing stuff that's going to come later. So when they're taken out of a world and thrown into something new, then we see the contrast there. If you can make the reader empathize with your character, you're basically done. They will keep reading. You're basically done because they'll keep reading. If they don't like your character and they don't empathize with the character, throw it away. You have to be clear why will the audience like your character. Here are a few great ways. Here's some tricks. These are some tricks you find all the time for creating empathy with your character. Their mom or dad or boss is an asshole. That's easy. Kung Fu Panda. He wants to learn Kung Fu, but his dad wants him to cook noodles. Empathy. You empathize with him because everyone has conflict with their parents. Yeah, he also might be adopted. You think Kung Fu Panda might be adopted? If someone is wrongfully blamed, we empathize with them. If Jim spills the coffee and then Evan walks in and I get blamed for it, then people like me and Jim was like, I didn't spill the coffee, Jim spilled the coffee. It's like, oh no. Then our empathy goes to people who are wrongfully blamed. And you find this almost all the time in the beginning of the story. In Wizard of Oz, Wizard of Oz has almost all of these. Almost every single one. She's bullied by the witch next door. Literally. Impossible Dreams, the little girl wants to win the beauty pageant. Not gonna win. Kindness toward children and animals. There's an entire screenwriting book written about number 6, Save the Cat. Sometimes you'll find a hero, like Mr. Incredible, in The Incredibles, in the opening scene. I'm going to go save someone. Oh no, a cat in a tree. Saves the cat.
What's the physical ailment?
Physical ailment. If someone is blind, deaf, has a bad leg, has a sickness, has cancer, then our empathy goes with them. Here are 3 groups of types of empathy. People we feel sorry for. Bad luck is so funny. You could just write a comedy about someone who has bad luck. Great. If someone's rejected, how can our heart not go out to that person? This guy gets the courage to go and ask someone out on a date. Rejected. We feel sorry for him. Well, I would. I'm not a psychopath. Humanistic virtues. Our empathy will go out to people who display humanistic virtues. And finally, people who are just awesome at things. Have you ever gone on YouTube and Googled like people doing awesome things? I love that. I love watching that. People do it all the time. Britain's Got Talent. I watch that constantly. I do. Whenever I don't want to do my job, I feel like I can't get it done, and that I'm a terrible person, I watch Britain's Got Talent. It makes me happy. We're going to read something about empathy. I used to take empathy for granted. I used to just think, yeah, screenwriting, empathy, story, yeah. I used to take it for granted until I was living in LA and I was hired to write a TV pilot for a CIA spy. He's this guy born in Iraq, ran away from Saddam Hussein with his family, became an American citizen, joined the CIA, went back to Iraq, and has been infiltrating ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Has this awful life. He's seen so many bad things. You just can't imagine. When you see him, you just whatever. So we're going to read the first page of his book, and notice the beautiful way that he creates empathy for his plight here. Winston, why don't you read it? It's going to be 4 slides here. The book is called Those Who Face Death.
My earliest memory is going.
You probably read this before.
I've read this before. My earliest memory is going across the street to the cemetery to dig up my baby brother's body with a kitchen knife. I did it because I wanted my brother back. He was just a baby, and I had no one else to play with, and I wanted him back. I went through the courtyard and into the kitchen where my mother cooked our meals. I had watched her use the knife to cut lamb and chickens while my brother crawled on the floor, so I knew where to find the knife. When no one was looking, I took the knife and went to go and get my brother back. I wanted to play with him, but I also wanted him back so my mother would stop screaming, so she would stop the wailing and the crying that made it hard for me to sleep at night. I wanted my mother to stop beating herself and leaving marks on her face and neck. She was still a young woman, just a pretty girl from the mountains. But when she beat herself and screamed, she did not look like my mother.
Last one.
My father was quiet since my brother had died, and spoke roughly when he spoke at all. As the oldest child, I felt the responsibility to do something about it. So I took the knife, and I went across the street to the cemetery in order to set things right with my family. I was 4 years old.
Right. Can you imagine that life, being 4 years old and stealing mom's knife to dig up your baby brother's body? I just can't imagine. So, yeah, this is page 1 of his book, and it's so beautiful, he doesn't even realize it's written in 3-act structure. Kitchen start with the kitchen knife, end with the kitchen knife. But notice, your heart goes out to this guy. From the beginning of the book, it's like, I'm going to make you empathize with me. He doesn't even realize how good it is. And he's also introducing his mom and introducing his dad, and we empathize with them too. We really feel sorry for these people. Would you keep reading such a book? I mean, are you kind of hooked on the character? Yeah, you are. So, got to use these tools to create empathy for your characters. I used to take it for granted. Sure, empathy, I'll use a trick. I'll use physical ailments, I'll use bullying, but really, what is it? Find the really, you just need to have that moment. We're empathizing with them, and now, boom, throw something at them. You cannot introduce the challenge to a character you haven't introduced, and we don't care about this challenge if we haven't empathized with them. Yeah. Now, what disrupts your main character's life? Can it be an earthquake? Yeah. Can it be a tornado? Yeah. Can it be a car crash? Yeah. But it's better to have it be a person. It's better to have it be a character. Because an earthquake happens once. Sorry, I mean, aftershocks. But I mean, an earthquake is not an agent who can, like, counteract, you know. It's better to have a person versus a person rather than a person versus a tree or a person versus a fire. So think about, create a character. Who is going to bring this challenge to my character? Make sure their character's life is totally disrupted by this challenge. Contrast. We show the everyday life to show how big this event is going to be. That's all. That's all for challenge. That's all for challenge. So, after the challenge comes, they may not want to get into the story, but when they do commit to the story, that's the new situation. And the new situation is basically, we're now getting into the middle part of the story. They'll probably leave one world and enter another world. Second paragraph, the story scope can be big or small. What matters is the contrast between the two worlds. It can be Dorothy entering the land of Oz or a man changing his tire in the rain. If a man's driving and he gets a flat tire, the moment he steps outside the car, that's where he's entering the different world. Go over, fix the problem, come back into the car. Very simple story. So then you need to, once they're in the new situation, you need to give us an indication of what they're going for. The family in Little Miss Sunshine, they're trying to get to California. That's their goal. And the audience wonders, wow, are they going to make it to the beauty pageant? Will they make it there? And now they're engaged, they're interested, they want to know more. That question of wanting to know more is the dramatic question, and in this movie, A Bug's Life, will the ants defeat the grasshoppers? Super simple. Will they defeat the grasshoppers? So the question in the beginning is usually just a yes or no question. Will they defeat the grasshoppers? Will this man and woman fall in love? But then the solution, the dramatic answer, is more about how and why. Yes, they defeat the grasshoppers by working together. Or yes, they fell in love because he learned not to be selfish. You need to answer it with something beyond a yes or no. Once you introduce the character and their everyday life, and we empathize with them, and you create a challenge, and they're in a new situation, and they're going towards something, then just the last element, what's going to stop them? What stands in their way? So last element here. Apply these questions. Who wants what? What stands in their way? What happens if they don't get it? Why now? Any scene that doesn't advance the plot through conflict is either not a necessary scene, a poor conceived scene, incorrectly written. So, what does it mean to advance the plot through conflict? I'll answer it on the next slide, but what does it mean to advance the plot through conflict?
By overcoming conflict within that scene, the main character gets one bit closer to achieving what he wants in the movie.
Yeah. And let's say that exposition, let's say you have some information that you need to give the audience. Don't just have two characters saying, honey, we've been married for these 10 years. I think that you don't need to deliver information that way. Deliver information through conflict. It's like, honey, you forgot our anniversary again. That's conflict. It's our 10-year anniversary. We didn't. Yeah, that's a little bit better way of doing a scene. So the magic words that you want to keep in mind for advancing story through conflict is this, but that, therefore. I say it all the time in class. So this means the character wants something, but that something stands in the way. Therefore, they have to do an action or make a choice. Beginning, middle, and end. 1, 2, 3. I don't even know I did that. That's cute. It's very cute. Yeah. This, but that, therefore. This is the DNA of story right here. This is it. This is 3-act structure right here. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Beginning, middle, end. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Give me a second. All right. So this is it. In those synopses that I showed you, and I'll show you again, this is all you have to write. Don't write the ending. We want to watch the movie. We want to watch the story. We want to read the script. Make us want to know more, but don't fix the ending. Icelandic banker on the run. This is written by an Icelandic director and me. So in 2008, Iceland's country collapsed, banking system collapsed, economy collapsed. So we wrote this story about an Icelandic banker on the run in China convinces a taxi driver to drive him to Mongolia. That taxi driver is suicidal. He wants to kill himself. And so he's just going to drive this guy to the border, collect the money, and then send it to his family. But the Icelandic banker has no money. He's conning him. So here is this one page. I'm not saying it's the best one page ever written, but look for the elements. Look for those 7 elements here. 10 years after stealing $1 million and running off to China, John has finally been spotted and has to turn himself in. So look for the 7 elements in this synopsis. 10 years after stealing $1 million and running off to China, John. Usually capitalize the character, give us the age, has finally been spotted and has to turn himself in, unwilling to face the consequences, and having already spent the money, John convinces Xiang, next character, a local driver to take him to the Mongolian border, promising him 10,000 yuan in money that John doesn't actually have. So already, hopefully, we're sensing characters and everyday life.
Can I ask you something? You say the money that John doesn't actually have. Is it said here because we are supposed to know it when he proposes?
I want people to know that, that John is a con right from the beginning. And now I want to create some empathy for the taxi driver, because The John character is that fourth type of anti-hero. He's a criminal, he's an asshole, he's on the run, expired visa, don't let that happen. And Xiang is more of my everyman, ordinary man in an extraordinary situation. Xiang is also at the end of his rope, having borrowed money from his in-laws and failed to pay it back, considering himself a failure with his wife and his one son. Xiang decides to kill himself, but not before driving down to the border for the money. Borrowed, stolen car, a borrowed red flag sedan, and the clothes on their backs, blah, 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 make their way to China. So this is the new situation, right? We can sense the story happening. And you just sort of maybe summarize the middle. You don't have to give everything that happens. And then they push in Little Miss Sunshine, they push the van, they jump in the van, then they get dinner, then they leave her behind. You don't have to say all that. Maybe you say, what will they do when Grandpa dies? When Grandpa dies, they're faced with the choice of either going home or continuing to California. You want to end with something interesting. Again, I'm not saying it's the best one page ever written in the universe, but hopefully you can see the 7 elements at play here. Yeah, there's no second page on this. This is the only one page that I'm aware of where I'm describing almost the end of the movie.
That's what I wanted to say. Because it felt like you almost went to the end.
Yeah. Maybe I should take that out. Winston.
You pointed out that this is probably the shortest one page you have. I also noticed that you don't have a character section, but your everyday life and character and empathy section is extra beauty.
Is what?
Well, okay, there's more in it. Like you've got 2 paragraphs of just characters in your synopsis. Is it okay to skip a character section if you just have like 2 characters?
For sure. That's why I did this. The other character is the Icelandic embassy, the bounty hunter who's chasing him, the local cop.
Because I noticed in your other ones, they're a little bit thinner in the empathy in the beginning of the synopsis, but you've got a full character section for each.
Sure. Let's keep that in mind as we go to the next one. Four-eyed cowboys. Such a cute idea. Wealthy Chinese troublemakers sent to an American cowboy ranch to learn hard work. Instead, they buy the ranch. Tian Chen Qiu are rich. They grew up in some of the finest homes in Beijing and attended the best schools in China. When the boys go out for a night on the town and crash a $500,000 Rolls Royce, their fathers decide to send them to an American cowboy ranch to teach them the value of hard work. Act 1. New situation. So I'll put it as a question. These 3 characters, what character group would they be in?
They're not empathetic in any way, but they are almost heroes in the sense that they can buy anything.
You think they're the hero archetype? Yeah, maybe they have power.
Their power is literally they can help people with money, but there's almost nothing empathetic about them otherwise.
The hook scene is a club scene.
Throwing money, yeah, but that's not desirable.
You kind of like, I want that money, but they're assholes.
It's an anti-hero. It could be an
Probably
hero, but the thing is, they're like, if they're Fuarda, they're genuinely doing it.
It's probably anti-hero, but by the end of the film, they have a change of heart and they become more
You
hero.
can become less rich. Because the thing is, it's like, the Fuarda is really just a socioeconomic bracket.
Characters in conflict, not interesting ideas. If you write socioeconomic bracket on your one page,
Well, yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, so I can see the characters. There's still just people.
I'm going to finish this one page. Hoping to avoid the contrast here, right? Send them to an American ranch to learn personal growth and responsibility. Contrast. Hoping to avoid personal growth and responsibility of any kind, the boys purchase the struggling ranch upon arrival with their Visa Black cards. You should get one of those. Those things are great. I heard. And tell their fathers back in China that they're learning valuable life lessons, so they lie. When an investment bank arrives to buy the land, the boys must choose between cashing out or helping the local ranchers preserve the only way of life they know. These boys don't know how to cook rice, let alone milk a cow, slaughter a pig, rope a calf, get through the day without getting online. The simple lives of the folks at Silver Lake Ranch teach the boys to believe in themselves, appreciate the little guy, and do things they didn't know they could do. At first, the boys delight in playing cowboys and firing guns, but the closer they get to the local ranchers, the more determined they become to keep the ranch from selling. Yeah, I've got a lot of interest in this one page. Still no buyer. People aren't sure how it's going to work with the horses and the guns. If you're going to describe characters, the way it's usually done, capitalize the character, simple age is enough. And this guy, yeah, he's the charismatic leader. Just start with that. I've seen one-pages where people say 158 centimeters, born in April. No, we don't need that information. You want to sell the maximum vision of your story with the minimum amount of words. You don't need to say that you're born in April.
You were first horoscope.
People actually, I've seen people put horoscopes in. Were you born in April? You jerk. Aries are the worst.
I am Aries.
Aries are the worst. I'm just kidding. I hear you're the best. I hear you're the best.
But it's a risk because if the person who reads it hates April,
It's a
he's
risk.
not going to buy it.
Yeah. No, April's awesome. All right, contrast, right? So Tian is the loud, outspoken one. Chen is the quiet, reserved one. So this is code word for Normbreaker's hit character. Yeah, you don't need to go overboard in describing characters. You just need to show us even the internal contradiction. Chen is the quiet guy, but kind of likes losing control sometimes. And Tian is the charismatic guy, but he needs to grow the fuck up. Qiu is the short, funny one. Why? Because there's always a short, funny one in Chinese movies, right? The fat, funny one, the funny guy, the absurd one. Just throw it in with the archetypes.
Does he have a different accent than his other brothers?
He won.
Like a Dombay accent or something?
Okay. He's the first one to trash talk, pick fights. You can, all right, look at Cho's description. By describing this character, you can see a scene, can't you? Can't you see a story scene somewhere down the road? Just by the nature of who he is. He wants to marry a car model. He meets the Swedish bikini team at the casino, which is like the most amazing part of his life. I felt it necessary to describe where they are, the ranch. It's kind of like a touristy spot that is going bankrupt. People come here and they do these Wild West things. It's run by these two women and these two assholes, the bad guys. The casino, the real antagonist. Yeah. That's it. So you send this to someone who doesn't want to read your stupid script. Because nobody wants to read your treatment or your scripts. But hopefully you can make people excited in one page. If you can make somebody excited in one page, then you've done it. You've done the work. Yeah, that's the point of the one page.
One more question. I missed the initial part of this discussion.
Louder, I
You
can't.
would say avoid giving up, what the ending of the film or your story is. Is there a benefit to do that? Because if you're asking people to sort of invest or get on the project, do you want to tell them the entire story or
Next email, next meeting, later on. Yeah. If you're just sending it to someone, that first of all, they're not going to read it. But if they do read it, hopefully, you've structured it just like this. And they'll say, comedy? Yeah, I want to make a comedy. I'm interested in making a comedy. I like the title. I like Peter. Let's keep going. And then the log line, if they get to the log line, they're like, I don't like this. And then you're done. So you structure it this way to make them excited, and you don't show the ending because when they're excited, then they're like, hey, I'm really excited. Could you please send me the rest of it? Then you know that they're probably, not definitely, going to read your treatment. And then if they like the treatment, they read the script, they read the movie. And then they put the movie in theaters, and then nobody watches it. That's usually how it goes.
Do you always have your script before you have this?
I like that question. No. Sometimes it's just an idea, and I like to start with this. It's like if I need to see that I have a movie before I start working on it, I'll sometimes try and find a buyer for something before it's written. Brilliant hacker, save his girlfriend, la-di-da. You get the genre, hopefully, right? It's one of those movies about typing furiously into your laptop and running from foreign bad guys. Well, this is a super short synopsis. Wow. That's
So do
good.
you usually give like examples of similar films?
Yes, I do. Yeah. If the other ones didn't have examples of other types of films, maybe it went to the third line and I didn't like the way it looked. I'm always like sculpting the words on the page. I hope to make it look nice. Use some white space, make it look nice. Yeah. Because you want the information to go into the reader as simple as pouring water or pouring coffee onto a laptop. You want it to be that easy to just spill into it. From the page to the eyes, no choppy speed bumps in the sentence. And read it out loud. Talk yourself through it. Give it to your friend. Let them read it. See if it makes sense.
Peter, so if you have the character section, does that mean that in the synopsis you can have the character descriptions like almost like very basic, just like because you're gonna go into it later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna get thick.
Yeah, you don't want to overwhelm. The worst thing you can do is overwhelm, have a wall of text. Yeah, that's pretty bad. If my synopses are getting too big, you got to break it up into chunks. Yeah.
But then just like your other one, where you didn't have that many characters, you didn't have the character section because you felt that you described the character enough.
I felt like I could. It felt like I could accomplish it, and literally on one page, without the second page. Because if they read your first page, they don't want to go to the second page because people are lazy. You know, I could put it on one page, so I did. All right, I haven't looked at this in a while. I don't know if it's a good example or a bad example, but I noticed that it's a very short synopsis. When Tian uses a decryption device to get revenge on an illegal piracy site that infects him with malware, that's difficult to read, isn't it? He has no idea his skillful interference will attract the wrath of the International Crime Syndicate and the Chinese Cyber Crimes Division. Framed for murder by the syndicate, Tian goes on the run and learns his girlfriend Yuan has been kidnapped. So dumb, so stupid. I wrote this for a guy who's not even in the film industry. He works for Microsoft in the anti-piracy department. Yuan has been kidnapped in exchange for his cooperation with both sides after him and nowhere to run. Tian must clear his name, save his girlfriend. So cliche. We already know he's gonna do it, right? we should have the bad guys win. Oh, that would be so cool. The piracy people win. Tian must clear his name, save his girlfriend, do everything he can to take down this syndicate. Sometimes I'll add these kinds of things. I'm not going to say what that means in this class, right? Some of you already know. Also, don't just have a long list of characters. Break them up. These are our main characters. See how, hopefully, see how nice and pleasing it is. You get a sense. Here's the good guys. Here's the bad guys. Yeah, this is a real company here. Bad news. The RBN. I will embed links to Wikipedia if I think it helps. The crime, yeah, we're just talking about crime. I wanted to mention the crime because I think it's interesting enough to mention it, but I don't want to give the story away, right? By downloading a pirated movie, you invite hackers into your system. Your computer will start running at 50% of its capacity, and by using your computer and your computer and your computer and your computer, they have basically a wide distributed supercomputer, and they can take down a bank and with a DDoS attack. Okay, let's see if the 7 elements are here. During a routine weather warning patrol, that's everyday life, young search and rescue ranger Law discovers a pair of tire tracks leading off-road into a section of the Gobi Desert known by rangers as Death Valley, with vicious wildlife and summer temperatures reaching very high numbers. Wolf follows the tracks. But he's doing the right thing. I think we might empathize with him and admire him because he's going to help people. He follows the tire tracks to a rocky ridge and finds a jeep and 2 sets of footprints. He searches the area and finds Jung, a businessman struggling to make a call. Jung claims to be alone, but Law clearly sees 2 sets of footsteps and a short-range 2-way radio on Jung's hip. Law searches despite, this is long, I hate it. This is long and wordy and I don't like it. Lloyd keeps searching despite Jung's insistence that he's alone. He follows the footprints to a cliff, looks down and sees a dead body on the rocks below. And then rest, I will not. I'll leave you in suspense. If you want to know what happens, I'll send you the one page. Maybe I should revise this and shorten it to dead body on the bottom of the cliffs. That could be interesting. Gunfight, jeep, blah, 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 characters.
Would themes be, if you have, I know you said not to do interesting ideas, but would the theme section be where interesting ideas might come up?
Yeah, if you just have to write your interesting idea like I did there, page 2 all the way at the bottom, as an afterthought, I think. Yeah. This is a romantic comedy sci-fi about a robotics engineer who builds a robot to look like herself so that she doesn't have to do something with her family. During the holidays, a brilliant robotics engineer sends an identical artificially intelligent android to take the place. So the same actress would play both of these characters. You have Xiaoai on one hand, and then the AI robot that wraps dumplings better. I don't really have to describe mom or dad, do I? It's just mom and dad. People understand mom and dad.
Peter, so since for the Stone Soup Fund, we're all doing short films, and these are all feature length, would you suggest us to do things differently, considering we have less material that we're working with, and some short films are very based on just a very quick idea?
Yeah.
Don't fully have a 3-act structure. I'm not saying it doesn't have a 3-act structure, but it might be a modified
That's a
3-act structure.
There's an easy answer.
Is that it?
There's a conflict. Yeah, that's easy. For the Stone Soup Fund, we just asked for like 200 words, just briefly describing the story. We're not asking for a whole breakdown of the script like this. And actually, for these 1 pages, you don't get the whole story. You get 2 acts. So for the short film synopsis, you can probably reveal almost everything in those 200, 500 words, roughly. And still be okay because of the nature of the way we're pitching for competition. We kind of want to know the ending in Stone Soup. As for short films in general, if you're trying to get one funded or trying to write a 1 page for your short film, and you're thinking like 3 acts, I think short films a lot of times have different kinds of act structures. They usually want to be more cyclical, meaning the beginning and ends share some kind of motif or nature or connection in that. And there's actually whole books on just writing a short film as compared to like a feature film. That could be like a whole series of lectures that I can't really expound upon right now. So taking that into consideration, I think when writing a 1 page for a short film, just try to sell the story and what makes it interesting stylistically, because short films are more stylized than feature films. Like a feature film will rely on dialogue and talking, long form narrative, but a short film might just try to punch something out really quickly. Usually try to tell one kind of key story element or character piece in 3 to 5 minutes. That's all you have. So what style you're going for is going to be a little bit a bigger part, because you're also a lot of times when you make a short film, you're the director and the writer. Very rarely do people write short films and find directors, so that's always an option. It's just not the norm. So it's a little bit different. So, and maybe you just want to write a short film and find the director and then think about it.